Hello, this is John Baker with another NX Quick Tip video. Today we're going to talk about NX11 and some of the changes that we've made for this new release of the software. To start with, we're going to talk about some user interface changes. Now don't worry, we're not talking about changing the ribbon or anything like that. This is some areas that we've been working on for a while, and NX11 is just the earliest that we could get these changes in. So when we talk about user interface, it's much more than just ribbons and dialogues and menus and so on. There's also some other aspects of the software. For example, I have a session running here, and in fact I have many parts open in my session. And in the past, if I wanted to change to a different part file, I had a couple of different options. I could go up here to the Windows item. There were a couple other places. I could go over to the history thing and the history tab. And while the history tab can allow me to change displayed parts, it really isn't showing the displayed parts. It's just showing the parts that I've had open recently. That's why it's called the history. But I'd really like to only worry about the parts that I've actually got open in this session. And there actually is a standard out there for changing the display when you have multiple documents open in certain applications. And NX is now adopting that standard, and that is to hold down the Control key and press the Tab key. And now we get a panel showing all of the files that are currently open in this session. And I can move from item to item by simply taking the Tab key, or I could, while I'm holding down the Control key, I could also use the mouse wheel to move from item to item, or I could just simply select an item and it would appear. So let's say I wanted to go to this one, or I wanted to go, let's say, to this one here. Now another thing that we've changed as part of this project is, you notice I have this part open. This is an assembly, and here I have the drawing for that part. So there's the drawing for the part that was a master model. Now in the past, if I would have changed from a model to a drawing while a displayed part, I would have also have to go and manually set it to the module to drafting, and if I went back to the model, I would have to change my application now to modeling. Now we no longer have to do that. The system remembers what that part, what piece of software it was being run in the last time it was displayed. For example, I have a sheet metal part here. If I now go to that part, you notice I'm now in the sheet metal module. And if I go back, let's say, to this part here, I'm back in modeling. If I had a routing application or one of the manufacturing applications open, as I would have changed those parts, we would have switched between those applications as well. Again, this is going to help users because they don't have to stop and manually change applications. It'll remember it on the fly for you. And so again, this is something that people have asked for, and we've now given them this really slick way of changing the displayed part. Now it hasn't ended just there. There's other places in dialogues where people have displayed, where you have a list of multiple parts. And so, for example, in the old Windows item, which we still have, as you now move your cursor over the items in the window list, we actually show you those previews. We didn't do that before, so now you get an idea that you're actually getting to what you think. We also have the Switch Windows dialog, which again just brings up, is the same as Control Tab. And if we bring it up this way, then the Control Tab isn't what you're using to control it with. You can control it with the up and down arrows, as well, of course, as the mouse wheel. And again, you can select directly to the part that you want to change the display of. Also, some other applications. For example, let's say I want to close a part, a selective part. Now, in the past, you'd get a list, and on that list, of course, you had to go by the name. So which part do I want to close? Well, now if I hold my cursor over the top of the name, we get the preview again. So now I know exactly what part it is that I'm going to be closing. But we could go one step farther. Starting with NX11, anytime you have a dialog which has a list of part files that are currently available to you, this could be in like part close, where I'm at right now, file close. It could be adding a component to an assembly. It could be adding a view to a drawing, where I have the option of selecting a drawing from another currently open part file. In any of those cases, you now have the option of actually turning this window into like a little Explorer window, where I can actually see the icons for the parts. This is a medium icon. I could have small icons. I could even have extra small icons, or the list, which is the default. But again, we're trying to provide you a more easy way for you to understand how and which part you're working with here. So let's take a look at this part here, because there's another change to another aspect of the user interface that we've done, and that is what we call the information window. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go into analysis, and I'm going to run examine geometry on this model. I'm going to pick the entire model and hit examine geometry, and so it's going to go out and it's going to look at all the geometry in the model, and it has generate a report. So when I open the report up, this is the new format for the information window. It's now an HTML document. It's being displayed in what looks like a browser. It's really an HTML document presentation. It's in a new format. It's in a more modern looking format. We have different fonts and being used. We have these panels here where the information is stored in. So we have the header, and then of course the information from the examined geometry. And so these are sort of fields here are more modern and based on HTML. And in fact, when I go to save this file now, the default is to save it as an HTML document, which means that it can now be brought up in a browser. You don't have to save it as a Word document or as a text document and bring it up inside of an editor. You can actually save it as an HTML document, and you can bring it up inside of a browser or whatever you wish. Now, we still offer the option of creating it as just a simple text document, which will be similar to what was done in the past, in case you would still like to have a simple text document. But the default now is HTML. And we've also done a few other things. For example, let me come in here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to select this face up here and go into info, because now that it's an HTML document, we can actually provide more information. For example, when it says the color, in the past we would just simply give you the number of the color and the name of the color, but now since it is an HTML document, I can actually go in here and put a little color swatch in here, because it isn't just limited to text. And in fact, we may be doing more of this, adding more graphic type information to these information windows. And for example, down here I have a point, the center point of that face and the direction. We actually put little symbols, icons here, so you know whether I'm talking about the X, Y, Z vector or the X, C, Y, C, Z, Z vector, and so on. So again, we're providing more graphical information back to you as part of these windows. So you're going to see throughout NX, any place there was an information window, you're going to see these more modern HTML type document that can be saved and so on. And again, this is just like a cell of a spreadsheet, in the sense that I can double click on a cell and copy and paste from it into, let's say, a spreadsheet. Again, I can do here, I can go ahead and pick all of this and say copy, and I can take that information and drop it into a spreadsheet if I'd like to. So again, this is a big advantage of converting these into a cellular type structure and as an HTML document, much more modern and easier to use. There are other changes that we've made to the user interface that will be coming out. These are changes that are not affecting the ribbon or dialogues or menus, but other areas of the system in which is still part of the user interface. Thank you very much.